Josh Stevens.
MZ, Michael Zwerling.
I'm going to dispense with the personal question because I haven't had time to think of one today.
Trats.
But maybe later. I reserve the right. Is that, yeah, for maybe late, maybe second hour. And if we forget or don't do it or whatever, I reserve the right to ask you 2 personal questions next week.
I mean, you could even ask 2 this week because we're already, you forgot one last week.
Are you serious?
Well, you didn't forget one, but
I forgot that I forgot.
I wasn't here, that's why.
Oh.
I was out with what we thought could have been the COVID cooties.
Yeah, and you tested negative.
Thankfully.
Cool. Dave Michaels.
Good morning, MZ.
So, you're in the cave until, is it 2 o'clock?
2 o'clock every Saturday,
2 o'clock.
10 to 2.
Yeah, because last week it was 4 because you were working for poor Josh, right?
Right.
Okay.
Today I'll only be out there until 2. Now, for a limited time, MZ, I have all forms of tangy tangerine. I believe I have the tablets as well.
Yeah.
I have the tablets, the liquid, the canisters, and the packets. So if you're looking for BTT for a limited time, I mean, I have like 2 or 3 of each. Come down to the Dave Cave and you can purchase them right now.
What's the name of the product, the tablets that make men into better men?
That one is called Zeratest.
Zeratest, okay.
Yes,
Good.
and they're
The
capsules.
test, it's not a test. It's like for testosterone.
Right. It gives you a testosterone boost, yes.
Yeah, it just sort of, it's not real testosterone in the tablet, or is it?
No, it helps you
just
to produce.
Stimulates,
right.
yeah.
It helps you produce more testosterone yourself.
So if you're like me and it ain't what it used to be, then you take it and it might be what it used to be?
Put a little more lead in your pencil, a little more pep in your step. Yes, it'll do that.
There is a San Francisco friend I have who put in an order yesterday, and I'm headed for the city after the program today. So do we have some of that?
We do. We have plenty of that, yes.
We have plenty of that. And by the way, have you had reports from people who use that? If it really works, it's supposed to.
I haven't heard too much feedback on Zera Test. I have heard a lot of feedback on Zera Femme, which is designed to help women with their hormonal support. And I've heard really good things about that from both the man and the woman.
And do we have plenty of that?
Yes, we've got plenty of that.
How cool.
Yes.
See, we are well stocked today.
Today we are. But Tangy Tangerine, limited supply. I mean, I have like 2 or 3 bottles of each. So get down here to the Dave Cave and you can purchase yours.
Now, something else that came in, and I don't know if you noticed this because it's not in the cave yet. It's in a box. Excuse me. It's the collagen.
The collagen peptides, yes,
yeah.
yes. I've heard Dr. Wallach talk about this. Now, the curious thing is, and I don't know why, there are 2 different forms. One is $60, the other is $30. I don't think the more expensive one is in a bigger canister, but it is berry flavored. In either case, collagen peptides, the one we have is the $30 size.
Well, this is the bigger one? It's this big?
I think they're both the same size. They look the same size. I don't know what the difference is.
The ones that came in my order are this big. And the other ones are that big?
No, the other ones are about the same size. Yeah, the berry flavored ones. So for people who don't know, they're about the same size as an Arthrodex container. They're about that size.
Which is the same as a BTT 2.0.
Arthrodex is a little more slender and a little taller.
Got it.
Yeah, but I think it's about the same size.
Okay, well, I've got to tell you that I'm impressed by that product, and that's why I bought a bleep load of it.
Dr. Wallach is always talking about that, and it's a super mega dose of collagen.
And collagen knits all your skin and stuff together.
It keeps it all together.
And
keeps it all together.
And it tastes really good. That's why I ordered 1 bottle in the huge order, and or jar or whatever, canister, I guess you call it. And it was so delicious, and I felt like I was adding so much more body to my body.
Yeah, it's hard to describe.
I just ordered a whole bunch of it, and that I didn't even tell you, but now I'm telling you.
You know, it's the same thing with Tangy Tangerine. I tell people, they always ask me, how does it make me feel? So I'm going to get out of here, MZ, and get to your show.
No, stay as long as you want, but we do have a very special
I know. I'm excited about this. So people always ask me, how is it going to make me feel? How long does it take? I tell them, it'll hit you almost instantly. Give it 20 minutes, you're going to feel it instantly. You know, for long-term results, you got to take it long-term, but you will feel it immediately. The Tangy Tangerine I'm talking about. It's hard to describe how good you feel when you take these products, MZ. They're worth every penny.
I've got to do that myself because when I forget, I'm absent-minded, and the older I get, the more absent-minded I get. So I forget to take the products. When I don't take the products, I don't feel nearly as energetic. I'm not as sharp in the brains, right?
Well, MZ, there's almost no excuse for that, given that we have the tangy tangerine packets.
I know.
So even the most forgetful person can stash these in their pockets, in their glove box, in their drawer at work, at home, wherever it is, in your garage, in your tool chest. You can stash these wherever you are, wherever you go, so that you can have one there in case you forget. There's no excuse for that anymore, MZ. We have those in the Dave Cave as well.
Got it.
I'll be out there
Thank
till
you, Dave.
2. You got it.
Okay, here we go with the show.
Good morning. A brighter day is here. Good morning. May we bring you cheer.
We've got time, we've got tunes, we've got time, tunes, and temperature.
Get up and go, it's today, you know, on KSCO Radio.
I have the most delicious piece of pizza that I was just going to sink my teeth into. And then I realized the donut is coming up and I need to talk. And people have told me many times that it's impolite for me to chew and smack when I'm on the radio.
Shake that BTT for us.
So I thought I thought that I would be a gentleman today for a change.
Good morning. Now stay right here on KSCO Radio.
Now, I don't have many heroes, Josh Stevens, but I'm not exaggerating when I say our guest today is a hero of mine. He really is. What KSCO is all about is free speech, right? I mean, you're nodding your head, and everybody who knows us.
You said he's a hero. Does he wear a cape?
No, don't kid around. He really is, because he's been on before, hasn't been on for quite a while. For more than a year, I think. But this is Zach Vorhies, the Google whistleblower, the guy who had a great high-paying senior software engineer job for Google, which took pride in its slogan, "Do no evil." I hope I got that right. And they apparently didn't, but when Trump got elected, to the dismay of so many people, that's one thing everybody will agree on. No one thought that Trump would get elected in 2016, right? Mm-hmm. But he did. And so the attitude at Google apparently changed from do no evil to don't ever, 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 ever let Trump get reelected. And so far, it looks like they've succeeded. Anyhow, Zach, I forgot where I read about him, but I read about that he was not a political guy at all, and he enjoyed his job. But when things changed at Google shortly after the 2016 election, he couldn't live with himself to continue working there. And I asked him the question, if it would have been the other way, if we wanted to make sure that Trump got reelected, instead of hating Trump, make sure he didn't get reelected, would he feel the same? And he gave me the answer I wanted to hear, which was, yeah, I would have been the same, because Google is a platform. It's not a publisher, but it's been acting like a publisher and should be treated like a publisher. That's his whole idea. And he's the first person I ever heard express those feelings. And it makes all the sense in the world. Now it's all over the news. And this is something that Zach brought to the world. He was the first one I heard even talk about. Maybe there were others, but I sure didn't hear it. Now everybody's talking about it. I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people. Yeah. Anyhow, so it is with great pleasure that I put Zach Vorhies on the line. Welcome him back to KSCO. Hey, Zach.
Can you put him on too?
Hey, Michael. Thanks for having me back on the program.
So fill us in. I mean, a lot has happened since you and I last talked, even privately. So fill us in. What have you been up to?
Well, I came out trying to warn the American people that Google was going to rig the elections in 2020. And that seems to have been the case. My friend, Dr. Robert Epstein, who has been monitoring Google with an automated software package, saw that Google was not only pushing certain types of information, depending on whether you were liberal or conservative, but they would only encourage you to vote if you were, quote unquote, liberal or a leftist. And if you were a conservative, they would hide that from you in order to try to get out the vote for the liberal, constituents. This was called out 4 days before the election with a huge piece that was going to run in the New York Post. And the story got pulled and at the last minute by the editor. And then Google changed it so that it was showing, to vote for both not depending on who you were, and they've been, using their control of the information landscape in order to, I'll give you another example. There was a huge collection of Trump supporters on YouTube, and YouTube, which is owned by Google, purged them on October 15th. Just went through and said, hey, you guys are talking misinformation. And they didn't even follow their own guidelines in order to get rid of these people. They just purged them all. And these are some of the biggest commenters on the internet. This is including X22 Report, who had about 1 million subscribers before he was pulled. SGT Report, who had 500,000. In the Matrix, a whole bunch of these individuals, 15 in total. And so, I'm sorry, it was on the October 15th, but there was about 30 of them. And so I've been able to collect about half of them and get them together into a lawsuit that we filed against Google a few weeks ago. That was done in the district court. We got an Obama judge that had every accolade from the mainstream media. So we knew right away that this was not going to succeed, which was actually expected. So we got denied without even looking at the evidence. The judge said that, hey, they can do whatever they want. And so our next goal right now is to appeal, and we're appealing in the most conservative circuit court in the nation, which is the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Now, many of your listeners may say, well, wait a minute, isn't that the most, leftist court in the country? And the answer is that it was. And now Trump has essentially flipped the court to be the most conservative district court in the nation. And
Ninth Circuit, really?
Ninth Circuit is now the most conservative court as of the last couple of years.
This is amazing new information. How come no one knows that? Or at least I didn't know that.
They're not talking about it in the lamestream fake news media. But this is something that has been happening with the new judges that have been appointed by Trump in the last few years with his control of the Senate. And so, we expect a much better. Well, we expect a fair shake, right? I went to the district court with an emergency injunction. We're like,
what are you looking for in your lawsuit? That Google be changed from a platform to a publisher, like you were talking about from the very beginning when I first knew you?
We want these accounts restored. We want them restored. We want a temporary restraining order on YouTube so that they won't purge them anymore. And we want that to last for a period of time, because YouTube and Google promised the world that they would organize the world's information, make it universally accessible and useful. And
that's what got them this favored platform status, probably, right?
Right. Like this was part of their whole mission statement. And then in 1996, they were gifted this liability shield called Section 230, which states that if you don't act as a publisher, then you can't be sued for content that's on your servers. And so they took advantage of that and shot up to the moon, with this liability shield. Someone's like, hey, you're selling illegal drugs on, through Google search. Google's going to be like, no, we are a platform. We're not a publisher, so we can't be held liable for this content. But, once they started...
Basically, up yours, we can do what we want, right? Basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would have thought that too, and I do think that about private businesses. But you were the one who put my nose in the realization that if a private business can do what it wants, like you and I haven't talked about masks and stuff like that, but I believe very, very strongly that a private business has the right to require its customers and its employees and contractors and so forth to wear masks if they want, and if the people don't like it, they don't have to go in that business, or they don't have to be employed by that business. They don't have to do business with a business, right? I feel very strongly about that. But for the government to force you to do things, to force its things on private companies is wrong. And so I never, before I knew you, Zach, before I talked with you, I never thought that part of the reason Google and these other mega companies like Facebook and Twitter have become so large is because they get favored status that nobody else gets.
Right.
And you were blowing the whistle. That's what you really were blowing and continue to blow the whistle on. Am I correct?
Yeah, and it's the fact that Google is part of this fascist coup that's coming, and it's been rolling out. And what's happening is that people are migrating to these different services, but then the other tech companies are ganging up on them and pushing them out as well. So, for example, we had Gab.com, which is the best alternative to Twitter. And in many cases, it's now better, but you can't find them in the App Store. There is no app that you can use to download in order to access this server because Google Play and the Apple App Store have banned the app completely. You can't get it.
Because they don't agree with the politics of the owners of the app, I guess, is what it sounds
right.
like.
And
this is really, really, really scary, Zach. I mean, I'm starting to get really frightened. I really, really am. And I guess you felt this way ever since you left your high-paying, Google's software engineer job, I guess.
I mean, essentially, I didn't want to live in the world that they were building, where it was going to be a world controlled by these technocrats and these engineers.
And look, what do you think that the election has been stolen or influenced by this? I'll just use the word stolen. You think so too? And am I right in I don't. When I was introducing you, before we put you on, was there anything that was not quite accurate? Like I didn't think that while you were working as an engineer before the 2016 election at Google, that you were political at all, that you were you were liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican. I just didn't think that any of that meant anything to you. Was that correct, or was I wrong about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was a disaffected liberal. I was supportive of Obama until I saw his horrendous policies and his murderous policies going through the Middle East and how he destroyed Libya. And then, and so it's like, well, nothing in politics makes sense, so I'm just not going to care. And then Trump won, and I didn't think he was going to win, but he did. And then I saw what he was trying to do, and I saw why so many people were supporting him, and then I was like, and then I saw Google reconfigure itself, sacrifice everything at the altar to try to banish Donald Trump from the presidency. And I was like, oh, man, there's a real...
It lasted for 4 years.
Yeah, this whole moving coup. I saw it all my own eyes happen in the inside of the world's largest tech company.
And how long into Trump's presidency, I forgot, how long did you continue to work at Google? Was it a year into his presidency or 2 years? What was it?
3 years. 3 years, all the way until June 2019.
Okay. Wow. Okay, and then you just couldn't handle it anymore. Wow. Anyhow, that's why you're a hero, because in my eyes, you walked away from something very important as far as income is concerned. I mean, you're a highly skilled software engineer working for one of the biggest high-tech probably the biggest high-tech company in the world. I don't know whether it's Apple or Google or Facebook, but you're right up there. And you walked away from that.
I walked away from it, yes.
Because you're a man of principle, and I just take my hat off to you. Josh, you want to ask something of Zach, right? Hold on. Here.
I sure do.
Go ahead.
So between now and the last time you were on the Saturday special, a lot has changed, and we even noticed big tech companies such as Facebook and Twitter now deciding to figure out, hey, these people aren't sharing views that I agree with. Like, for example, they censored or reduced the visibility of tweets made by our president, as well as tweets made by a lot of typically conservative-leaning public figures. What are your thoughts on those sorts of measures in which Twitter and Facebook have been doing?
They're clearly trying to act as unregistered lobbyists and affect the political outcome of the presidential election. Their iron grip fist of the information systems right now is a great threat to the United States and to the rest of the world. And this election that just happened is part of that coup on the United States and for the rest of the world. And what's really disconcerting is how many people are just absolutely going along with what just took place,
including Fox News. Oh, I couldn't believe it. They're talking. Yeah. Fox News has always, I believe, been as in favor of Trump as CNN and MSNBC and all in the other cable networks and even broadcast networks were against Trump. But now it seems to me like Fox has turned against Trump too.
They're owned by Disney.
They have. And we were told by intelligence sources that Fox News would turn. And now we see that that's come to pass. So the question is, well, what do we do now?
What do we do now?
Well, I mean, there's this narrative out there that this is part of a sting operation. There is something called Dominion Software, which is in all of the different swing counties that moved to Biden after November 3rd. And right now, their servers are being raided in Germany. This was said out loud by Congressional Representative or Senator Louis Gohmert yesterday. And the sort of the minority narrative is that they used a CIA system that was developed for use in other countries in the United States in order to swap the Biden vote, to swap it to Biden from Trump. And in their rush, they got lazy, and so they only did it for Biden. They didn't do it for any of the local candidates. And as you may notice out there in the news, there was a bloodbath for the Democrats, and they lost a whole bunch of seats in the House of Representatives. And at the same time, they're also claiming that Biden won out in a landslide. Well, how can that possibly be? How can people show up to vote for Biden, but then vote Republican at the same time? It just doesn't make any sense. And it's clear at this point that this targeted changing of votes only happened for the presidential candidate and not for the local candidates.
Wow. And then one more question. What about your thoughts on NewsGuard, a website that is determined to say whether or not a news source is legitimate or not?
I mean, it's all part of this plan to control the entire information landscape because people are getting harder to be lied to, which is the reason why all the propaganda is increasing. It's almost like a diabetic that is becoming insulin resistant, so you give them more insulin in order to try to overcome the diabetes. This is the exact same thing that's happening right now. They're trying to increase the level of mainstream media propaganda and decrease the spread of alternative narratives that challenge that globalist narrative, because they're trying to roll out this new system called the Great Reset. I don't know if you guys have been covering this on your program.
No, what is it? Well, I mean, I've heard the name, but maybe we have more than I realize. I don't get to listen to KSCO very much. I'm sorry, I just can't.
Okay, well, the Great Reset is something being pushed by the globalists and the World Economic Forum, where basically you get all of your debt forgiven. In exchange, you renounce private property and the ownership of anything. And then you're allowed to travel if you have a immunity passport that you keep up to date regularly. So if there's a new vaccine, you have to get that vaccine, or you lose access to travel out of your territory. And this is what's being rolled out right now. This is what NewsGuard, this is what Google.
Who is rolling it out, Zach? You say it's being rolled out. Who's rolling it out?
By the globalists.
What about the tech elites?
The globalists that run America with their monopoly and their control of the world central financial systems are pushing this Great Reset. And the propaganda started in October, and it's starting to go everywhere now. They're even mentioning it on Sesame Street. You're going to hear about it very soon, but it's basically their takeover plan of the world, and you should read about it, because it's going to be the next big thing in the next year.
Okay, we're back to what can and should we do about it? What can and should freedom-loving and appreciating people, not useful idiots, do? What can and should we do to stop this? Or is it just too far gone?
I mean, there's this narrative that this is a sting operation and that Trump's about to pull his last Trump card. And so at this point, my only recommendation is pray and start, getting prepared for, some bad stuff to happen. I think right now the United States is looking like it's in the midst of a cultural revolution, globalist sort of Marxist revolution that gripped a lot of the countries, in the 50s. That's essentially what is going to be happening here if Trump doesn't pull a final Trump card. And he's hinted that he's going to stay for another 4 years and that they caught them all. So and places like Russia and Mexico are not congratulating Biden. And so there's something big that's still in the works. And I pray to God that the card gets played, because, this whole technocracy takeover that I was trying to stop seems like it's been able to succeed. And I wish I could say something happier than that, but that's the state of the world as I see it.
Wow. I'm sweating. I don't. What about Josh? What's up?
Where do we go from here then? How do we combat what is and isn't misinformation?
He just told you, pray. Are you into praying?
A little bit, but
yeah.
It'll hurt to get down on my knees.
Well, okay. We've got almost a full board of calls. We're talking with Zach Vorhies, who resigned from Google as a high up there software engineer about a year and a half ago. And he is our special guest today on the Saturday Special. I know we have him for the first hour, but so many people want to talk to you. I don't know if you've got other things happening next hour, but I totally understand if you have to leave. But boy, let's
take those calls.
Okay, here we go. Here's our first caller is Rory in Watsonville. Is a question for Zach regarding the election. Go ahead, Rory.
Yes, and MZ, thanks, and Zach, thanks for your courage and being on. You answered part of my question. I was going to ask you about rating the Settle servers in Germany, and if you had any additional info on this. And you spoke to it already. Sounds like you're up to speed as much as it's available. Settle, by the way, is a Spanish company, and they're running our election returns through servers in Germany, is what appears to be. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's as much as I was able to find. They're they're a globalist corporation. They're running stuff out of Spain and Germany, and the servers have been raided. And that's about as far as I know about it.
I heard, Zach, that Settle was in bankruptcy and it was purchased sometime in October. I don't know by who. Something to follow up. Are you familiar with what Steve Bannon's doing in his war room? And the statistician software guy, I think his last name's Barris. Are you familiar with those guys?
No, tell me about it.
I'll send a link to. They broadcast out of a radio network out of Virginia. That's all I know. Pandemicwarroom.org. Yeah, you can find it. If you go to pandemicwarroom.org, they broadcast twice a day. It's got the most up-to-date information on what's going on in each state. Obviously, if they've got servers that can expose criminal activity, it's a whole new game at that point. And MZ, with regards to the Great Reset, which I've been hearing about for a few months, it's just Agenda 21 implemented at a global level.
Okay.
So your station and your guests are way ahead of the curve. It's all the carbon credits, social engineering, social credits, cameras everywhere. It's 1984 on steroids. And Zach just talked about a couple things. If you don't go along with it, guess what? You're not going to have. If they get power, you won't have your private property, and you won't be able to travel. And our property, which is owned by us, will do us no good. This is a complete, total effort to take over the population of the Earth under the guise of saving the Earth from global warming and any number of other sham environmental concerns.
Before I forget,
yes,
I heard, and this is for Zach and you too, Rory. I have heard that Nancy Pelosi's son or nephew or something is a major major owner of that vote. What's the name of the company you're talking about?
Dominion.
Now, is that
I
people
heard
just
that,
trying? It's not verified. What have you heard, Zach, if anything?
It hasn't been verified.
Okay, it's not verified. So that could be someone just, just trying to sink her ship,
Yeah,
But
it could be bogus. You have to be careful, and you do have to verify everything. Now, don't forget, people, there are multiple cases being filed in court. There's a law firm out of the Great Lakes, or out of Michigan. It's called the Great Lakes Justice, I think, Institute. They're a 501c3. They're filing affidavits on behalf of people like a Detroit city worker, a woman that witnessed criminal activity during the polling on the 3rd. Okay, and these things are being brought to court as they're either shut down or moved forward. He's appealing, and this is independent of the Trump campaign. So no vote can be certified until these cases are resolved, and they're going to get they're going to be pushed up the chain rapidly. So don't give up. Steal your resolve. I mean, and we got to keep an eye on this. And thanks for having Zach. I'll let other people get on. Thank you.
Thanks for calling, Rory. Okay, take next. That would be Ben in Santa Cruz about voting software. Ben, you're on with Zach and MZ.
Hey, Zach. Yeah, everything you said is absolutely true. I've done my research, and Wikipedia right now, before they take it down, has all the information you need to know about the founders and all the in the research on the bottom of the WikiLeaks page. We'll have all the reference material of all the different companies that helped start Dominion Software, and it's real. And as far as what you said about the financial reset, that is real. They're going to make an agreement that you have to atone to, and you have to agree that you won't own or want to own possessions of any kind, and that you'll be put onto the stimulus page, the stimulus package where they give you money to live on. They're going to make it permanent. It's going to be a permanent welfare of funding so that people don't have to work, but you can't own nothing.
So, Ben, how long does KSCO have to live?
You have as long. See, here's the thing. I worked in high tech for years, and I used to do antenna design, and we did the first variations of antennas under the skin that you see a lot in the cell phones now. And we worked on the antennas for the chips that are going to go into your body. I've seen them, worked on them, tested them in anechoic chambers, did the field pattern tests and the whole 9 yards. Those are real, and those are what they're going to have mandatory when you sign up for this financial thing that's going to be the financial bailout. You have to get a chip, and that's how they're going to monitor you and track you.
But you didn't answer my question yet. How long does KSCO have to live, in your opinion?
Oh, gotcha. I think we got as long to live as long as Trump doesn't lose the election and he slows them down another 4 years. All of this is going to come out, and I think, according to what people say, researchers, that the United States will be the last man standing, and it's going to be a quick.
But I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. Are you saying that if it's that if the Biden presidential victory holds, and he steps into the White House on January 20th, that that like within days or weeks, KSCO will be gone, and there will be no. I'm scared. I'm really. Josh is shaking his head. He's thinking we're both nuts. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, no. This is a platform that has diversity. This is a platform that carries so many voices on the far right and even on the far left, and we all know which voices I'm talking about. And no, this is way too balanced. Now, if this were like some completely alt-right Christian entity, maybe it wouldn't survive a Biden administration. But no, we're too balanced.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because they're going to give you a script, and that's the end of KSCO if you don't follow the script. As far as that voting goes, there's no way Biden's going to win because Trump, with Homeland Security, he signed that executive order. Let's not forget, he signed an executive order while all this fake Russian stuff was going on. He slipped through the workings or an executive order to implement a strategy to combat any type of illegal voting and manipulation of our political system through election fraud.
That has something to do with watermarked ballots or something? Yeah?
Correct. They use blockchain tech for every single ballot that everyone's registered for. You can't just be a Democrat and vote Republican. You can't be a Republican registered and get Democratic ballots. You only get the ballot that you're registered for, and it's a one-time shot. And so they can't make multiple copies of it. There's only one bit chain identification for that, and that's it. It's like going to the bank and you got your own bank account. Nobody can access it.
Zach, you haven't said anything for a little while, ever since Ben has been on.
I'm just listening.
I know, and you're being courteous as a wonderful guest.
Okay, I'll let you go.
But don't go, Ben. I want Zach to comment on what he's heard you say before you get away.
Okay.
I may think that your question is how long does KSCO have, and it all depends on whether you're able to be within the oversight window of acceptable dialectic, right? So as long as
if we promote or allow to be promoted anything positive on Trump, which of course we do. I mean, a lot of Trump supporters use KSCO and call in. Then I don't think we're long for this world if Biden gets elected, and I'm dead serious. Josh is not listening; he's screening a call right now, but he probably thinks I'm out of my mind. Huh?
No, Mike is right, and you're right. You're totally right, Mike. And I know for a fact that I used to do a radio show down there with Dave Allen, and we learned a lot about how people come after you, and it's very real. You get threatened; they come to your house, and they threaten to kill you. Now imagine if it's a government level threat.
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah,
back in the day.
I do. All right.
Bullet over your window.
All right. Well,
by the IRS, it's just these soft methods that they use to shoot you down.
Thank you, Ben, for calling 479-1080. Our next caller will be Craig in San Jose about the Drudge Report. Hey, I haven't heard about that in a long time. Craig, you're on.
Yeah, hey, 2 Z-men on today.
Yeah.
Z's are wild. Okay, yeah. What is it with this Matt Drudge Report guy? I've been going to his site for years. Is he being paid off by George Soros and the globalists like I suspect? What do you think?
He sold it. He sold it a year ago, and now we see the ramifications of it. It's now turned against the president.
Oh, he sold it? I didn't hear
Yep.
about that. Did you, Mike? Did you?
I didn't hear that either, but it sure would make sense because, you don't hear about it very much anymore like you used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it got compromised, and they sold it off, and he cashed out, and now someone else has got control of the Drudge Report. That's usually why it sounds like a global shill site that's, telling Trump to get lost.
God.
Wow, I wonder that didn't get out. Hardly nobody knew about that. Then that's weird. Then he didn't. I wonder why didn't that get out publicly that it was sold? Or isn't that big news or worth it? Or
It was if you were on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, then you heard about it a lot.
Okay.
Now, I hear Michael Savage though. I hear Michael Savage on his program talking to Matt Drudge, and he wonders, and he asked Matt Drudge. I heard him the other day say he talked to Matt Drudge.
Talk louder, Craig. I've got you cranked up all the way, and we can barely hear you.
Okay, man, I'm getting out of the car. Okay, well, I hear Michael Savage talk the other day. He says, "Oh, Matt Drudge is my friend," and I asked him why he's so much against President Trump, and he says that Matt Drudge just laughs. I mean, Michael Savage doesn't say that the thing was sold. Are you sure it was sold?
Yeah, 100%. And I'm not sure what sort of operations being done with Michael Savage, or what Drudge has put into it, but it was sold. There's files. You can just look it up on Twitter, and you'll see that it was sold to someone else.
Yeah, who was it sold to?
I don't have that information in front of me now.
Okay.
Maybe George Soros bought it. Maybe George Soros bought the.
Yeah,
maybe.
Maybe.
All righty. Hey, Craig, always great to hear from you. Thank you for calling 479-1080. Here is Steve in Seaside about election fraud. Go ahead, Steve. You're on.
Thank you, Michael and company. Yeah, I think we have to find a way to do a recount on all the mail-in ballots because we pretty much know what the vote was when they shut it down and stopped counting. So if we have all the other people redo their mail-in ballots, save the envelopes and not allow that separation to occur so we can recount this, because right now it's a fraud the way it is. We might be able to save this if they don't find any corruption. But even if they don't find any corruption, we should demand a redo on the vote, at least for the mail-in ballots. No one's going to lie about how they voted on that. Because the media interference, Google interference, our enemies were like termites into our media in the 50s, and now the media is going to call this election. That's like I taught a Putin cat, you know?
Yeah.
We have to redo the mail-in ballots because they're already a fraud, because there's this glitch where they can be separated from their envelope and lost in the pool. And that's not a valid way to vote for this country.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing with these mail-in ballots is that they're done sloppily and they're done illegally. If you just recount them by hand, then that will just solve the problem, which is why they're pushing so hard not to recount them by hand. And that's really the solution. If we just recount them by hand, then the signatures aren't going to match, and it's going to be obvious that there's a whole bunch of fraud in this election.
I still think, like, let's suppose there was stadium games around, like football and baseball. You know, if everyone would give out a cheer for who you're on board with, and we'll see whose cheer is the loudest. There's got to be some way we can salvage this fraud.
I hope that Trump's legal team is going to come with a Trump card and he's going to lay it down on the table. That's what I'm hearing, and that's what I'm praying for.
Now, I believe it. I believe in my heart of hearts that Trump won 60% of the popular vote.
Yeah. Okay, Steve, thank you for calling. I really appreciate it. Our next caller is Doug in Santa Cruz. Alt news sources and voting software. Go ahead, Doug. By the way, is this the Doug that I've known for years and years?
Yes, it is.
Golly, you've surfaced. Where the hell have you been for so many years? Did you move away?
No. I'm here. I just I don't speak out too much. I just try to keep a low profile and take care of my family as best as I can.
It's definitely you. I recognize the voice. But anyhow, you're
on. Yeah. So I apologize if I covering some ground that's already been covered. I didn't listen to the complete show, but I've been going to. I don't like being my information being censored. So I've gone to a couple of different sites where I'm picking up information, good, bad, and ugly. For news feeds, I no longer look at Drudge. I've been looking at Revolver. Anybody bring up Revolver yet?
Just you and your email.
Okay, Revolver. And then for social media sites, I've never done Facebook anyway, but I have logged into Parler, Parler.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to know about the Dominion software and the investigations and cases that are being filed against Dominion, you can look on Parler and look at Lynn Wood, Lynn. It's LLINWOOD. He's a big time attorney, civil rights attorney. Maybe you guys can fill in some more information on that if you think. But anyway, he's involved, and Sidney Powell is involved, and I don't know what's going on. Obviously, I just am an observer. But they said that they got big stuff that's going to be released real quick.
Yeah, I heard that too. That's why I'm hoping that the Trump card is going to be played here pretty soon, because we need to turn this around before Biden does more damage with his showboating with this false victory.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Biden's a puppet or he's a major danger, or I'm just really I'm not pro or con Biden or Trump or any of that stuff, but just when it comes to freedom and freedom of information and individual liberties, I'm your guy.
That's true. You had a great show at Radioactive back in the 90s on KSCO. That's great to hear from you, Doug.
Thanks to you. Likewise.
Right.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Okay, that was Doug and here. Whoever that was that I accidentally hung up on, please call back, okay? I didn't mean to do that. Let's see. I'm going to take the next, and that would be Tony in Castroville.
Hey, I just wanted to say that a third of the country doesn't even check ID to vote. I mean, you can look at all the state laws from state to state, and a third of them do not check ID when they vote. So it's technically it's all void, and we do this every election. It's the same problem every election. Whoever wins the presidency never wants to fix it because they won, so why would they question it anyway? So it's like,
I hear you.
And I also just wanted to say, too, is it doesn't really matter who's going to become president because the Federal Reserve printed $7 trillion. So whoever is going to be president, taxes is going up regardless. So just wanted to say that, too.
How can it go up if Trump gets back in?
No, hold on. Well, we got to pay back the debt that the government spent. That's reality. That's fact. It doesn't matter who's president. The people got to pay that debt that the government spent.
Even if it's printed money, which it is. Right?
Exactly. Yep. Whenever the government spends money,
wait, Zach.
We don't have to pay it back. That money is made out of thin air.
No, hold on.
Opposing side of the ledger. If you pay back that $20 trillion in debt, you'll destroy the economy via a deflationary cycle. Let me be clear. There's no way that we're paying the debt. If you pull the money out of the economy to pay that debt off, the economy collapses as prices skyrocket due to the deflation of the dollar.
Yes, it does. It does. The value loses its buying power. The dollar loses its buying power when there's more dollars in circulation.
That's when they print the money. But when they pay back the debt, you get the opposite of inflation, which is deflation. And the deflationary cycles include the Great Depression and every horrible recession that we've had. It's basically a deflationary cycle.
Well, the dollar's been going down for the last 2 years now. So. Just saying.
Right. In a deflationary cycle, the value of the dollar goes back up as things become scarce.
But the Federal Reserve, they try and not have deflationary. They boycott deflationary. They don't want the economy to go down. When there's a recession, you want an economy to have a recession because it trims the fat of the economy. It gets rid of all the nasty companies that need to go bankrupt. You don't need to bail out bankrupt companies because that just makes more taxes go up on the people.
I mean, that during that deflationary cycle, you're destroying the mom and pop shops because they can't afford to have a tax accountant fraudulently take their taxes and move it to a, Ireland via, patent payoffs. And so as a result, that deflationary cycle is destroying all the small businesses. And then, now people need handouts to go shop at big box Walmart in order to buy all their things. And you just continue this over a long enough period. And then no one's got any entrepreneurial spirit left anymore, which is what's happening, right? Like the Federal Reserve is inflating the money away and giving it to the military and giving it to these big corporations, giving it to China. And then they kill us with the deflationary cycle and increase taxes so that if you're a small business, like let's say KSCO or Zacky's Inc., which is my company that I have, we get reamed with taxes. The IRS comes and says, hey, you got to pay this up. And if you can't, then, they're going to slap a lien on your company and ruin it. And the thing is that they don't care if you go out of business. In fact, they want you to go out of business. This is part of the conspiracy to destroy the small business and entrepreneurial spirit of the individual person. And the question is, why do they want to have that? Well, the reason is because when there has been a revolt by the peasants, it's always been crushed, but a revolt led by the middle class has been very successful. And so this plot by these globalists is to destroy the middle class so that when the revolt comes, it's done by a bunch of powerless peasants that get crushed. And that's what we're seeing right here, and that's the squeeze that's coming. So I disagree that we have to
the squeeze already came, though. The $7 trillion has already happened. The bailouts already happened. It's already been happened.
Won't be anything like what's coming. That's a drop in the bucket. I'm talking about a total systematic destruction of the entrepreneurial spirit and small businesses across America. This is what the Great Reset is all about. They want you to abolish the concept of private property, capitalism, so that you become a willing slave of the system that will give you a free check for money and allow you to rent out things like cars and bikes and give you the ability to go on an airplane every now and then to go to a vacation spot.
Okay. Well, I'm not saying conspiracy theory, but you're going down the conspiracy theory road. But this economy has been inflated since 2008. The government has been printing money since 2008. It's an artificial economy. It's not even real. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100%.
All right.
When my shack in Watsonville is worth $800,000, there's a problem. That's all I got to say.
Is it worth $800,000?
Yep. When my 900 square foot little house is worth almost $1 million, there's a big problem. That's all I got. That's reality. That is reality.
Yep. That's part of it.
Okay. Gee, we have less than a minute. I'm going to take next here, but understand Peter, who wants to talk about Parler, get started, but we're going to put you on hold and hold you over. Zach, can you stay a little bit longer?
Yeah.
Okay,
sure,
good.
Why not?
All right. Peter, you're on.
Okay, I'll just spell. There's two on the App Store, so when you guys go to Parler to download it, make sure you're going to the one that ends in the ER, PARLER, and I'll let you come back then.
Okay, very good. So, yeah, it's the KSCO Saturday special with poor old beleaguered MZ and Zach Vorhies, our special guest, the Google whistleblower today, who is doing some amazing things that I continue to salute him for, and I'm sure he's becoming, as we speak, one of KSCO's favorite guests. KSCO
Saturdays, west winds 6 to 8 miles per hour. Time now for hour 2 of the Saturday special on KSCO.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, did you hear what I just said?
Only like the first word.
Which was what?
You were like, oh.
Oh, okay. All right, you didn't hear the rest of it then. That's good.
Oh, you were talking smack about me.
No. That's impossible. You can't talk smack about you. Dave Michaels, you're back.
I'm back, MZ. I just want to remind listeners, and not only do we have Tangy Tangerine and all that other stuff that I was telling you about, but I also have KSCO gear, and this has been selling great today, MZ. As a matter of fact, KSCO gear might be selling better than the other stuff. Now, when I say gear, I'm talking about jackets, sweatshirts, T-shirts, beanies, hats, Face masks, we're all out of shopping bags, but we have all that gear there, as well as KSCO bumper stickers, Flight 1080 bumper stickers, face masks of either brand. We've got it down at the Dave Cave.
These face masks are of cloth, right? Of high quality cloth.
Yes.
I can tell you that since I put on a KSCO face mask, my attitude about masks I still don't like it when the government tells me, forces me that I have to, but I was worried that I'll never travel again, even when the pandemic is over, or when you're allowed to travel, as long as you have to travel with a mask on all the time, regardless of the class you're flying in. I figured I've done all my traveling that isn't in a car. But when you gave me a KSCO face mask, I can breathe through it. And in fact, I like wearing the KSCO face mask even better than no mask at all. How do you like that?
I believe it, MZ. And I'll tell you what, one of the benefits that I found about wearing it, because nobody really wants to wear a mask. Let's face that. But if you're out in the cold weather, put on a KSCO beanie and a face mask, and your face stays actually pretty warm, so you can stay out of the elements just by doing what people, have been recommending that you do anyways.
Yeah.
And look good doing it.
Did anybody talk to you about the collagen peptides?
No, I just finished pricing them, and they are $30 and $65 are the two different prices, but the one we have is the $30 canister, and I would suggest that you come pick them up, because even though that is a big box, it is a limited supply.
So the big box that came is the $30 canister?
Yeah, those are the $30 canisters.
God, I thought I paid twice that for it. Well, maybe they sent me the wrong size.
It's a good value. I can't believe that they're only $30. It's one of the best values out there. That and the Arthrodex, which we don't have. And that's another thing too, MZ. There's a lot of things that we don't have at this time, but you can always go to kscohealth.com and place your order there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Very good. And use a credit card there, which you can't use here. You can use a check or cash at the Dave Cave. But a credit card, you can help people if they don't have a computer. You can help them order something online.
Sure. And second best thing, and maybe equally as good, is you get to support your favorite radio station. Stay healthy and support your favorite radio station. KSCOhealth.com.
If it wasn't for these premium quality products, KSCO would not be here.
Right. KSCOhealth.com.
KSCOhealth.com. Thank you, Dave. Okay, so here we are at the beginning of hour 2 of the Saturday special. How can I prove that? Yes. Here's how I prove that, okay?
Oh, hello, darling. I hate to hang up on you, but I'm sorry, baby, but I have to go. It's time for that wonderful record show. I'd love to visit, but you'll have to call back. KSCO has the inside track.
Yeah, we have a great guest today, Zach Vorhies, the whistleblower against Google.
I'm sorry, baby, but I really gotta go to KSCO Radio. Bye.
Okay, and before the break, we were talking with Peter on Parler. Now you're going to continue and finish up, Peter, about Parler, right?
Yes.
Okay, now tell us who Parler is again, for people who are just tuning in.
And just to start, I tuned in right when Zach was talking about another Twitter alternative. So, Zach, sorry this is stepping on those toes. But Parler is a Twitter alternative. And I think your demographic, probably a lot like me, I never touched Twitter for years.
Why?
But I knew.
Why?
Because I didn't want to get stuck staring at my phone all day.
Oh, okay.
And, but, just before the election, I was listening to more talk, AM radio, Levine, Hannity, those guys are pushing Parler. So I joined. Very, very easy. But there's 2 Parlers in the App Store, guys and ladies. Make sure you join the one with the ER at the end. The other one is a hookup site, not the one you want. so you get a lot of real-time information. So I recommend it. Again, if you're like me and you were Twitter, you abstain from Twitter, just join Parler. You'll appreciate it. Another good website to go to is rjmedia.com. Gets you some real-time updates. And Zach, really appreciate hearing you. You're you confirm some things and you shine the light on a lot of other things. And the main thing is we definitely have to pray. I know that God is working through Donald Trump on this, and I know that he will continue to use Donald Trump through this. We got to just acknowledge that in our prayers. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much for calling 831-479-1080. We had a full board. It was just jam-packed, but now there's only one person. So and that would be Tom and Salinas, whose call we will take next. But if you've been wanting to get through, now is the perfect time to call 831-479-1080 or send an email to mz@ksco.com. Okay, Tom, you are on with Zach at MZ. Hello? Somehow that got disconnected. We'll take the next. Okay. I guess I grabbed it on screen, but go ahead. Whoever this is, you're on the air on KSCO.
Hi, this is Annie in Felton. Can you hear me?
Sure. Yeah. And you're on with Zach. Zach, are you there?
I am.
Okay, good.
So I worked at the polls for 4 days and logged a number of things that I believe compromised the validity of the election. And I wanted to document all of those and send them to President Trump's legal team. And when I went to Google contact information on where to send my email, every single page that was a legitimate government link was unavailable or down or oops, or, I got all various messages that I could not access that information.
Wow.
Do you have any thought on?
I think you should try DuckDuckGo and see if that would work better, because there's a lot of things that Google will not show you, like they won't show you my website.
Oh my God! When you first left, this is how I tested this. I almost couldn't believe what you were saying back when I first heard of you and met you, Zach. That Google manipulates search results according to their whim, and so I Googled you, and just a whole bunch of negative stuff. Nothing positive about you came up on Google. Yeah. And then I DuckDuckGo'd you, and it was all positive. It's like anyhow, it was proven to me that everything you were saying about Google was true. They are manipulative, and they are evil.
They're evil.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm stuck with my search engine.
You should go to DuckDuckGo and switch it out.
Okay. Well, I was wondering also if, MZ, if I send you an email, if maybe you have access to, like, Freedom Forum. I'm thinking people there might have, valid contact information where I can get my information out there to.
Anything you want to send me, I'll send it on, or do what I can to help. Okay.
All right.
So mz@ksco.com. Okay, thank you, Annie. Take care, and thank you for calling 479-1080, which we have lines open. Here's Shelley in Monterey who wants to thank Zach. So go ahead and thank Zach, Shelley.
And you too, MZ, for having Zach come on again. I remember when he came on the last time. It was earlier in the year, right? Like in the summer?
When was it, Zach? I don't think it's been this year at all, into 2020. Am I right?
This year for what?
For the last time you were on. The last time you were on the Saturday special.
It must have been in the 2000s. There's been a lot that's happening this year. I cannot imagine that I haven't been.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I really appreciate that, because I know that. Is your life still being threatened, and you have to live in hiding? And
no, I don't. That's not happening yet. But I expect that to change if Biden is anointed president by the media system. In fact, I'm planning on leaving the United States if that's the case.
So, have you just accepted that you're a prophet for God? That God is working through you, and
I mean, I think that I didn't really choose this; it sort of chose me, and I realized that there's a great responsibility, and that I just try to resonate with the what I believe are the vibrations of God, which is sovereignty and freedom for people, and if the oligarchs were to acknowledge God's law, they would be allowed to continue to exist. But it seems that they have fashioned themselves as their own God, and they are going against the vibrational energies of the Lord. And I think they're going to be shut down like the fallen empires of the past.
Well, it's for me. I think my first wake-up call was when people started bowing. Because in the Bible it
What are
says
you talking about?
when people started taking a knee and they were bowing.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That was the first wake up for me, because in the Bible it says you bow to no one but your God. And it talks about people kneeling and bowing to other than God, and that really woke me up and scared me when I started seeing people do that.
To who?
Well, there was different things. The whole demonstrations when they started taking a knee, and supposedly it was for BLM, but really they didn't. I mean, their intentions were probably good, but to me it seemed like it was Satan working his way through a good cause, and people start kneeling down to something other than God. That's always bad.
Yeah, and that's sort of their plan, right? Like God's rainbow is a continuous colored rainbow, and then they take that rainbow and then they alter it with certain, with the defined colors, and then they have like the LGBT rainbow flag, and it's like everything that they're doing is trying to subvert that which is holy and good, and twist it for their own means, which is power.
Yeah. It's demonic. Yeah, it's all demonic. So anyway, I really appreciate your courage, because it takes true courage to do what you're doing, Zach. So I'll pray for you, and you're right. All we can do is pray. This is all in God's hands.
And if that's the case, I think everything's going to be all right. Hey,
the war pigs, just like Ozzy said in his song, the war pigs will be crawling on their knees, begging for mercy.
Hey, guess who our next caller? Thank you very much, Shelley and Moderator. Our next caller was on Rush last week. Yeah, Don in Salinas. Hey, Don. Wow.
Hi.
You're a famous guy now, and you're our Don in Salinas.
Well, I look at it like winning the lottery if you get on Rush's show.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, here you are on the Saturday special again, where we welcome you back always, because you're always a great caller. So,
well, what I have is a very simplistic explanation on why monopolies and Bolsheviks get in bed together, and what it comes down to is the saying. Do you remember, what's good for General Motors is good for America? Do you remember that saying?
Actually, I don't, but I believe that it was said.
It was said, and what's going on, and this is why Teddy Roosevelt broke up the monopolies years ago, had his trust busting and everything, is because at first a monopoly is a company, and it has a great product, and people flock to it, and then they tailor their product to the society and make it even more successful till they become a monopoly. Once they become a monopoly, somebody has an epiphany in their boardroom of, why the hell are we keep changing our product? It's already perfect. Everybody likes it. What we need to do is tailor society to our product. That's cheaper, that's easier, and then we can just put out the same thing. And this is why Standard Oil, the monopoly, tried to squelch electricity. And this is why the ones nowadays, like Amazon, Google, and everything, are looking to get in bed with the globalist Bolsheviks. is because they go to these people and tell them, our product's great. We're making lots of money. If you guys take over, we will lower your SKUs. We will lower the amount of people you have to tax because you'll just be taxing us. And you'll get a nice cut. Everybody will be happy as long as you institutionalize us into your plan. And the Bolsheviks bite on that. Oh, they love that because now they can use their time to screw with society instead of having to worry about an income. And they'll have a guaranteed income coming in. And they have a symbiotic relationship. This is why it's happening. It's not really evil. It's just soulless people who don't care. They're looking at the bottom line. You look at Biden's transition team. There's like 40 Silicon Valley executives sitting on it right now. They're all in there digging their little fingers in, digging out their little holes to where they're going to be part of the plan. And it's kind of sickening, but Google, Amazon, and places like that actually elected President Biden. They helped it greatly, majority help, because of the mail-in ballot situation that nobody is looking at. Everyone's looking at fraud. There's no fraud. They actually just said, we're going to send ballots that you can't verify that should be illegitimate.
Wait a minute. It's not fraud for dead people to have voted? That's not fraud?
That's bait for you to bite on. As soon as you bite on that, they'll say, well, there was only 2,000 dead people, so you don't have enough to decide the election. No, what decided the election was millions of unverifiable mail-in ballots. That's what decided this election. They even telegraphed it. They said,
I call that fraud.
They said Trump's going to win it first.
Explain to me why you don't call it fraud.
Because they made it not fraud. That's why. They made the mail-in ballots acceptable. And we were stupid enough to accept it. The rhinos in Congress, the legislatures, the courts are all saying these are legal ballots. So what the hell have we got? What resource do we have to fight? If you say, but look, this has a phony name on it, it doesn't matter. Well, the court decided the mail-in ballot, you don't even have to compare signatures. It's just, well, I mean, it is fraud, but they've legally turned it into not fraud.
Okay.
Yeah, well, really, stop and think. An unsolicited, unverifiable ballot comes back. Wouldn't you, as MZ, a guy with common sense, say, oh, what the hell is this? Why should I count this? This is nothing. This is a piece of crap. But they're counting it.
Right.
Zach,
right, they're counting it.
Okay, good. So you're still there. And do you have any question or comment for Don and Salinas or not?
I mean, why wouldn't the globalists just cheat in any way that they could? Like, that's the way that I see it, is that they're using dead people to vote. They're also using the mail-in ballot, and they're using electronic means because there's a lot of people that support Donald Trump, and they need to overcome the entire margin of his victory. So wouldn't they use every single method at their disposal in order to achieve that goal?
Well, what I would say is do the math. Who was winning election night?
Trump, yeah.
And now who lost in the next few days and why?
I'm not saying that. I'm talking about like whether something was used versus how much it was used, right? Like the mail-in ballot, the dead people, maybe that's just a minor contribution to this fraud. Maybe it is the mail-in ballot that is the majority of the fraud. Or maybe it's that plus the electronic. I think it's the electronic voting systems, because that Dominion voting system has been used in every single swing state that went to Biden like this.
After the election night, what were the only ballots that were being counted?
Mail-in, right?
Mail-ins, yeah. That's where the fraud is. But they legalized the fraud. They institutionalized the fraud. And we're sitting there saying, well, maybe dead people are voting. No, not dead people, phony people, made-up people, imaginary people. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer voted. It's all in that mail-in ballot. That's where the whole fraud is. And we need a court like the Supreme Court to decide and say, hey, this is phony. No matter how many nice people voted mail-in, the lion's share are phony. We need to throw the whole batch out, and then Trump wins. And it wasn't machines that had a chip stuck in them. It wasn't people doing this, doing that. It was actual stuffed ballots. Like time immemorial, they stuffed the ballot box, and we're not looking at it.
Right. So you're saying that we're being diverted towards looking at all these other places when the main source of fraud is standing there right in our face.
Yeah, you're being distracted, and we're being distracted from the actual fraud. There is fraud in dead people voting. There is fraud in some machines were twisted. There is fraud and some people were changing the ballots. But the actual massive millions and millions of votes. Look at this. Trump won with more votes than Hillary got in 2016. Yet this decrepit basement hiding creep got more ballots than Obama, got more ballots than any president in history. Give me a break. The millions and millions came in these mail-in ballots. There's a whole pile of fraud sitting right there that nobody's touching. Everyone's afraid to touch it because they accepted it.
Why aren't they touching it? Is it going to be touched, or you think it's just going to be thrown away into the garbage pile of memory?
The reason why they're not touching it is because they would have to accept the fact that they're incompetent boobs and they allowed fraud to creep into an election. Both Republican and Democrats okayed these mail-in ballots. Now they would have to admit that they're idiots and that they allowed this to happen. And they're not about to, because like every other politician, they're not going to tell you that they're retarded, okay?
Mm-hmm. So
that's basically what it is.
What's the winning solution for this? What's the winning solution for this?
The solution is for somebody to say the emperor has no clothes, for somebody with authority to go in front of the Supreme Court, pick up a mail-in ballot and declare this is not a legitimate ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Please rule so. I don't think so. That's the sad part of it. Nobody has the guts to do that. The person who does that's life is going to be ruined by Amazon and Google. They are going to have their address put on. You know, there is no judge between here and Washington, D.C. that's going to rule on this because of the fact that their house would be burned down, their children would have pornographic pictures of them spread all over the internet. They're not about to do it. Nobody has the guts to stand up and do it. It has to be ported to the Supreme Court.
You are
the only
scaring
court that could do
the
it.
hell out of us, Don and Salinas. Are you trying to do that? Because if you are, you're succeeding.
I don't want to scare. I'm a very simple man, and I have a very simplistic view of what's going on, and it's very straightforward. The Amazon, Google, and everything are nothing but Harvey Weinstein. That's all they are. They have so much power, they can rape you and then sit in front of you with $100 bills and say, tell me when it's enough. And then sign this paper saying that you're nothing but a lying slut, and if you ever snitch on me, your life's ruined. This is what Amazon and Google and everything are. They're pure power. Yeah.
Wow.
So what can we do to do this? Who is going to be the champion besides Donald Trump? He's the only one saying it, and he's been saying the mail-in ballots are nothing but fraud for how many months now? Who is going to get on that horse and ride? I just don't see anybody.
Well, I see Donald Trump, I see Mike Pence, I see Sidney Powell, and I see Mike Pompeo standing up there and saying there's going to be another
Yeah, but if those guys, if none of those guys are in office or in power, then what?
Yeah, then what? That's and you know why they're cheating so hard? One of the reasons why they're cheating so hard? Hunter's laptop. That Hunter Biden's laptop has tendrils that go all the way through Hillary, all the way through Schumer, Pelosi. There is a massive scale of crime that laptop could expose, and they have to get into the presidency. They have to squash this, because if they don't, oh my God, it'll expose them big time.
Wow. Okay, so I want to thank you for calling in, Don and Selena. So great call as always. Our next caller is going to be Amy from San Francisco, who has a question for Zach. And by the way, Zach, this is the same Amy I told you about, who is the host, co-host of China Uber Alles here on KSCO Thursdays 2 to 4. Go ahead, Amy. You're on with Zach.
Hi, Zach. How are you today?
Hey, Amy. I'm good.
I'm restore my phone, so I missed most of the program. Just get it back now. So I have a question for you. Just recently, I used a Google search something, but all the history, like I did a search before, all disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
So
it cannot get back what I did before. So I don't know whether they did it to inform the history of the search.
Yeah, it's getting harder to look at your history. I've noticed that too, and I've noticed that on other browsers as well. You try to look at your history. Usually, what I try to do to find an old website is I do autocomplete, where I can just type in the first few characters of the website, and then usually it'll bring it up and all the stories or whatever that are associated with that website.
Yeah, just recently, I realized, I used WeChat, which was a Chinese software, because I wanted to contact with a lot of people. They still live in China. But of course, we have the group, and any group more than 10 people, and they immediately censor and they shut down everything I send it to. They never able to open anything which was sent from the U.S. or Canada, which was with other members there. So we started using one-on-one, but sometimes it can go through for about 2 or 3 seconds, then immediately banned it, disappeared. But recently, I used other like American software, and which was like the Trader, Facebook, and they have the same thing happen. And they not just cannot send anything out. It's like we used to call in China, we call this communism and red tail. Hi, right now it's like a U.S. just like that. Absolutely banned everything. We have no.
This is what's chilling. I mean, Amy is zeroing in on things that should scare the hell out of all of us because she's been there. She has seen what it's like to not have free speech, and we are moving dangerously in that direction. Correct, Amy?
Yes. Before we use the WeChat, still can send out some information from U.S. or Canada and Western free world, so they can look at the truth. Otherwise, everything's lie in China. Their newspaper, everything except the date, they couldn't lie. Everything else is lie. And now I cannot send anything else, like a whole word shot.
Yeah. It's basically the introduction of the Chinese system into America. That's what they're doing. They're bringing it right here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what we can do to fight? I remember during coaching. That's right.
It's the only thing we can do. We have to pray that Donald Trump is going to do something that will reverse all of this.
Can anything short of being being the president for the next 4 years do that? I've heard people say he's going to start a new TV network or something, or a new news network.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he'll do that eventually. But the thing is that the Democrats will get him and his family, and they'll put him in jail. They'll prosecute him endlessly. If he blows a fart in the wrong direction, they'll hit him with a thing, and they're going to take him down. The cabal cannot allow themselves to be so closely destroyed and then just let the guy who did it go walk away free. Donald Trump's going to be destroyed to send a message to all the other billionaires out there. This is what happens when you try to run against us. You get destroyed. You want glory? How about your entire dynasty being wiped out? That's what's going to happen to Donald Trump. When you shoot at the king, you better not miss. And if Trump was truly trying to drain the swamp and he is not able to do that, well, the swamp's going to get him. There's no way that I could be convinced that he's going to have a TV show coming out of this. He's got to finish the job that he started in order for him to be able to do that.
So that's so scary. Just like we go back to the dark age. So where's the light? And where's the truth?
Right? I mean, and the thing is that before, at least you had these human networks that were supporting the entire system, right? And so people could say, well, I'm just going to stop working, and that's going to make the system halt. We can't do that anymore because the entire system's been automated. You can't go to the machine and say, I revolt, and the machine's going to go, okay, I'm going to stop functioning. No, it's just going to keep on whirling away, making metal and bending parts into place. And the oligarchs truly don't care what the people think because the people aren't going to have any power. And so that's where we're at right now. We're at this great transition. And if Donald Trump doesn't come back, then that's it. It's game over for any sort of rebellion or revolution in the future. It's all going to be controlled by these technocrats.
Yeah.
How do you fight against that?
I have one question. I just restored my iPhone. So regarding this iCloud. So who's controlling the cloud? Seems like everything, every information, everything I have all go to the cloud. I cannot reach. I don't know where it is. I don't know what to do with it. If they delete something, I never get back. I don't even know about it.
Mm-hmm. You don't even own it. They don't want you to own your own data. They want you to have it on their servers, and if they don't like you, they just pull it down all of a sudden, and you're screwed.
And then you're nothing. You have no identity. You have no bank accounts. You have nothing left.
Yeah.
You don't.
Other than to comply.
So you not exist. They can make you not exist in a second. Everywhere denied you. You don't have bank account. You don't have your ID. You cannot identify yourself because everything in the cloud. What are we gonna do with it? It's so scary.
Wow.
Maybe should have back to everything manually, but you can't do it because lots of places, and if you don't have your iPhone, you don't have the internet, Wi-Fi, you cannot do anything. There's nothing you can do. Nobody would talk to you.
Yeah. And if you do something that is against the interests of the ruling oligarchs, then your social credit score goes down, and then your social credit score of your entire family and your friend networks go down. So what will happen is that if you start to speak out against the fiction, you get defriended and abandoned by your entire family.
Wow.
So that's why those big corporation high-tech they so happy. I think now I understood their agenda and to control the whole world, this globalization. Yes. And they are, because the whole world, they control not just one country, nothing to do with country. They don't want to have any country. So they control the whole world. So we are become a slave. Back to the slave time, we are tax slaves. They put the chips in you and then you do whatever they want you to do. End of story.
Yes,
wow.
End of story.
All right.
That's the future.
Sure sounds like we're headed that way.
Any positive?
The positive is that Trump is being very convincing that he's got a trump card, and that there's going to be a huge strike against the deep state where he exposes all of their fraud and makes it so that this will never, ever happen again. But in order to do that, he needs to catch them, and that this whole election was a sting operation. That's the only thing we've got left that will stop this machine that's happening right now.
Yeah. There's one more thing about, do you know anything about this voting machine made in China? Actually, the company here is owned by Nancy Pelosi's son. But when they fax interview, they cut off the question, who owned that company? Dominion,
yeah. So what did you say, Amy? You saw did you see something, a TV report or something?
Yeah, the clip. And they just cut off right there. Say, who owned that company? So the interviewer, started answering, but I think as a lawyer. And she said that Nancy Pelosi said they cut it off. So never go to the air. So publicly, nobody knows. They just cut it off.
Wow. Okay. Amy, thank you for calling in.
Like a CCP, like a CCTV, in China. So they can
it's
do
like
anything.
It's like CCP TV is what you're saying. Jeez.
Yeah, CCTV, yeah.
All right. Thank you for calling, Amy. Appreciate it very much. We're going to go to Michael in Watsonville, who apparently objects to the discussion. Michael, you're on KSCO. Thanks for waiting.
Yeah. Good morning, MZ, and whoever else is on. I tuned in. I tuned in late, so I don't know how many people are in the store. How many guests do you have this morning, Michael?
Just one guest, and it's Zach Vorhies, who is the Google whistleblower who quit his as software engineer job a year and a half ago because he didn't like the direction that Google was going. And he had been apolitical up until then, but he's become political since then.
His name is Zach?
Zach, yes. He's the guest today.
Zach, were you involved in the movie Social Dilemma? Just a little side
No.
Okay.
No, in fact, the main character in that movie blocked me, the woman. She's a disinformation researcher on Stanford's payroll, and she helped write a hit piece against me for helping boost vaccine whistleblower Judy Mikovits. So the whole thing about Social Dilemma is a movie to propagandize the American public, and this is my opinion, into believing that humans are not capable of freely talking with each other. So what they need to do is they need to clamp it down and control everyone's free speech.
All right.
That's the thesis of the movie.
All right. Well, anyway, let me get to my main point. So does anyone remember the movie Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Uh-huh.
Sure.
Well, what's going on now, with all due respect to everybody who has a different take on this than I do and others, this reminds me of the scene in the Holy Grail movie where the knight was defeated in classic Monty Python graphic, sort of creepy, cartoonish violence. The knight, his limbs were severed, his arms and then his legs. He's completely defeated. He's saying, "Come back and fight like a man, a mere flesh wound." And it's like the classic situation of fighting when there's absolutely no hope of emerging victorious. And that's my sense of Mr. Trump, that he was defeated fair and square, even if there was some questionable counting in some of the states. The margin of his
No, it's not true. Yeah, there was a blowout for the Republicans. They took this election, other than for the presidential candidate. There's just nothing that lines up with the Democrats winning this thing fair and square at all. It's just blatant, in your face fraud.
I mean, I've heard reports on the various networks. There's no evidence of any large...
There's lots of evidence. It's sitting right there in the face. All you have to do is go to Twitter and follow some right people. How about follow the president of the United States to start, and you'll start going to the trail of fraud that is nationwide on what's been going on.
I didn't hear the first part of the program. Maybe you cited some of that apparent or what you believe is evidence, but to me, he's just a big spoiled brat, and the people around him are all kowtowing to him, and it's disgusting because it's holding up the transition of power, which needs to happen quickly. Biden needs to know what's going on.
No, it's a fascist coup. Biden represents a fascist coup and is compromised by the Chinese Communist Party. Like, you do not want a transition to a Biden environment. We're going to have a radical change in politics if Biden comes in, and it's going to align with the Great Reset, mandatory COVID vaccinations in order to travel and engage in the economy. They've already said that this is what they're going to do, and Biden's going to be the guy that's going to help them do it.
Michael in Watsonville, does anything that Zach just said in the last sentence strike you as craziness, or do you think any of it could be true?
Well, I don't know enough about these, what's going on. And I said this to you before, maybe, I don't know, how, like 2 years ago or so, Michael, but Trump, to me, does not seem like a person who has the temperament, the mental stability. Right now, this reminds me also of the final scene in the Caine Mutiny where the Humphrey Bogart character, the captain, started to unravel. I mean, it's pathetic. Trump is drunk with power. He has no conscience. He's probably a sociopath, and this is the man who's running the country. Why that? A lot of people see that. Why some people don't see it, I don't really understand. He is not fit to be in the position that he is. He's fine being on The Apprentice or running his real estate business, but not the president of the United States. I mean, really.
Because you think the United States has gone in a bad direction in the last 4 years where he's been the president?
Well, look at the division, the polarization. That never happened.
Yeah, I agree. There, 4 years ago, I even 8 years ago, I don't remember a time when we were more polarized or divided. And you're right, it has gotten worse. And you're blaming that on him. Do you think there's anything that's better? Do you think it's a lie that companies are coming back to the United States that have been offshored, that have moved away? Do you think that's a lie? Do you think it's just plain not true?
If Trump has anything to do with bringing manufacturing back to this country, that's very good. But remember, Michael, economics is very complex. There's many factors. Things were happening before Trump came in place, so he can't really take credit for all the...
Okay, you want to give that credit to Obama? Why not go back even farther than Obama, to Bush 2? Why not go farther back to Clinton? Why not go farther back to Bush 1? Why not go farther back to... Where does it stop?
It's complex. It's hard to trace these things move.
But if you think it's a good direction, if you think there's anything good about the direction that the United States has taken during the last 4 years, isn't that enough? Isn't that enough?
Because his general tone, the way that he thinks in terms of us and them. And he doesn't get the bigger picture.
What is the bigger picture? Because you obviously get it. Tell us, let us all know what the bigger picture is.
The bigger picture is that we're all in this together, and when nobody can be left behind. When you exclude one part of the universe, one part of the world, then everybody suffers. He's.
You mean when you want to correct a bad deal? Maybe you don't think it was a bad deal. The Iran deal that he talks about was the worst deal we ever made. And when you correct a bad deal, that's not a good thing. Especially if you think it was a good deal. Maybe you do think it was a good deal.
What was the Iran?
The Iran deal? You know, where Iran got how many billions of dollars in cash? You know, and
500 or something.
What was it, Zach? I mean, help me out here. I feel like a fool here because I'm making a point with Michael, and he's calling me on it. So it was billions of dollars plus. But what Trump did is he made it a lot more difficult for Iran to get the ingredients for a nuclear bomb. Right? That's the main thing. So do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it should be made easier for them, like the previous administrations made it easy on Iran by making those deals?
You're talking about the alleged like $8 billion or whatever went when it was not. There was no trace of it. It was not reported. Obama gave evidently or allegedly a lot of money to Iran.
In pallets of cash. It was so illegal that he dropped pallets of cash into Iran. He couldn't even do it through the SWIFT banks because the banks would not accept the electronic transfer because they were too concerned about the legal liability of what he was doing.
Yeah, the specifics of that I don't know about. My point is much broader in that we need a kind, compassionate leader who will take into account the whole situation, not only this country, but our relationship to the world. Trump.
See, the problem that I have, let me just respond to that point. The problem that I have with that is that you had Obama, he destroyed Libya. Okay, you had Bush, he destroyed Iraq. Okay, you had Clinton, he destroyed Bosnia, Herzegovina. And my question is, how is Trump not worthy of leading if he's the first president in my lifetime that hasn't destroyed any country? Should that make him be the greatest president in a generation?
Things warp and woof. You know, I think his temper. You know, I was very happy that we didn't get into a war with North Korea, but no, I think.
Well, who are you going to give credit for that to? Obama?
It's not. I'm not even citing one person being better than the other. The point is that we need wisdom. We need a good-hearted person, a wise person, to be the leader. Trump is not that person. That's so obvious.
Okay.
Well, what's your standard of what a good leader is? Because all the other leaders that we've had have destroyed countries for the globalists. So what exactly is your baseline of good leadership?
Someone like Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. Martin Luther King, people who understood that violence is not the answer. That we have to come together. We have to.
I thought Trump understands that. He's the first one who hasn't created a war in generations. War is violence. War equals violence, Michael, in Watsonville.
Yes.
And Trump is the first president of the United States. Everybody said, if he's elected, there's going to be war. There hasn't been any war. It's been exactly the opposite of what people said.
Well, that's really good. That's really good. I don't know.
I hope I'm turning you around a little bit to get you to reflect. I've met so many people who wish Trump is dead, even though they'll admit that they like so much of what he has done and his policies and so forth, but they hate his guts because of the way he acts and because he's obnoxious and because of, the language he uses and so forth. But I wish some of those people would just turn around and look at the big picture. Just like you're telling us to do, you're not doing it at all, Michael. Anyhow, thanks for calling. Our next caller is going to be, who is that? Has been waiting a long time.
It's Gordy.
Gordy. Hi, Gordy. Thanks for waiting.
Hi. Yeah, I'll run through this real quick. Ann called in, wanted to know how she could get the information out there. I suggest she use the old-fashioned method of the telephone and call up Tom McClintock. His number is 202-225-2511. She can get a hold of his office at the White House switchboard. That's an alternative. There are the old ways of getting around to communicating. I've been off the grid for years for all these reasons that you've been discussing. Now, regarding the ballots, okay, there's some obvious check on this here, on how many mailed ballots were returned as undeliverable to the Postal Service. It seems to me if there were ballots returned with not at this address, we should have heard about it. But we have not heard of one ballot being returned as undeliverable. So that's something that needs to be checked into. What happened to these ballots that went to the wrong addresses, et cetera, et cetera. So that's about it for me for now. And thank you very much, Don. Yeah, I called Breitbart the other day, and they took this as very serious, that there's been no check on how many ballots did not get delivered properly. So thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Gordy. Here's who is this? Who are you?
Steve.
Steve. Okay, hi, Steve. You're on. Quick.
It's true. Trump has to slay his opponent in the arena, and he didn't. And now they're going to try and gouge him, just like your guest Zach said. What Trump should do to totally do a Samson on them and bring down their building is jail Stephen King and expose everything after that.
Okay, thank you. Now here's John in Freedom.
Hello.
John, you're on. Quick.
Thank you. Is this quick?
Yeah.
What I want to say is we all need to stop worrying. If you read the 14th Amendment, Section 3, it discusses qualifications to hold office in state and federal government. And one of the things that prevent anybody from legitimately holding office in the United States is the fact that all the efforts to impeach or destroy President Trump was an act we can put under the title conspiracy. And conspiracy is an act of insurrection, and no one can hold office who's participated in insurrection against the United States.
Okay, so what does that mean? What does that translate? So Trump is going to be president, or Trump is not going to be president?
Well, Donald Trump needs to go ahead and resign the ending of his term, because based on what the Constitution says, Article 1, Section 8, Enumeration 15 says Congress shall provide for the calling for the militia. And for those who believe that the militia is the National Guard, they are crazy. The militia is all of the citizens exercising their civic duty to maintain their safety and happiness.
Okay, do you want Trump to be president in the next 4 years or not? I think it's not. Am I correct?
Actually, I don't think that Donald Trump as president for the next 4 years can solve this problem. But I do believe if we supplant, that means replace everybody in government who swore an oath to uphold it, who's not actually doing one of two things: charging those that are guilty of or participating in conspiracies to destroy this government. Then you have a misprisons, which means someone who knows it's going on has a duty to do something about it, but are not doing it. We don't need those kind of people in our government any longer. We are in this position because we depended on a government that is failing us.
Thank you. I hate to do this, and this is never happened before. We have so many people on hold that we just can't get to because it's the end of the program. Zach, thank you so much for being with us. Hope you'll be on again and again and again. That's it for the Saturday special, folks. See you next week.
That's all, folks.
You're listening to KSCO, Santa Cruz, Salinas, Monterey, San Jose.